co-production of The Appeal and Now This. I'm your host, Jay Willis. Today we are returning to our occasional series, Our Future on the Ballot, conversations with candidates from across the country about what they stand for, what they don't, and what they hope to do if they're elected to office this fall. And today my guest is Eliseo Santana, candidate for sheriff of Pinellas County in California is not where Pinellas County is. It's in Florida, common mistake by me. Eliseo served for 31 years in the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, retiring as a communications maintenance supervisor. Now he says the office needs new leadership and is challenging his former boss, Sheriff Bob Gualtieri, who has become something of a celebrity among Trump supporters for, among many other things, responding to this nation's crisis of gun violence by pushing to provide school teachers with firearms. Sheriff Gualtieri was named Sheriff of the Year by the National Sheriff's Association in 2019, and in 2020, he was appointed to Trump's Commission on Policing. Eliseo says the county sheriff's office, as presently constituted, mistreats victims, collaborates with ICE, and refuses to wear masks during the commission of many of its duties. Eliseo, thanks so much for joining us to talk about your campaign today. During your 3 decades in the sheriff's office, you've said that many of your suggestions to increase transparency and accountability, like, for example, requiring body cameras, were ignored. And I understand that the sheriff's office still does not use body cameras today. My question is, why did you stick around for so long?
I was the first Hispanic, the first person of color to be hired by the sheriff's department as a technician. That was back in '81. On day one, when I got there, the chief deputy, the person that was the second in command, called me to his office and he had me sit down, and he basically told me straight up, "You're not a good fit. I didn't want you here." That's how our relationship started. It happens I had the highest score ever, and even though they paid extra for drug tests and background check, they were not able to find anything to eliminate me from that process. So my beginning with the sheriff's department was as a pioneer. And what I've discovered is that in my use of technology, I can make people's lives better. The officers, the more safer, the community, in a situation that they were more accountable to them. And in environments like the jail, which we have the 26th largest jail in the United States in Pinellas County, I was able to bring about a reduction of stress based on people having a little bit more confidence and the ability of having cameras throughout them. People see that they're being watched, they behave differently, not just the inmates, but the officers. And so I stayed around because I found that I could serve my community and keep it safer by doing that talent that I have in being able to address problems using technology. Without my presence there, I fear the insecurities and the actions that would have led without my presence being there. So yeah, after 30 years, that's what I was doing. And my last 2 years was with the current sheriff. And just about every project that I had to make things better dried up and went away. And I could no longer stay there. And that's when I retired.
So as you've mentioned, you were one of just 3 supervisors of color in the agency. But as we've also mentioned, you don't have direct law enforcement experience. As you prepare to run against your old boss to take him on in the fall election, what are some of the things that have gone wrong in the office that specifically made you want to run?
We have an organization, the Sheriff's Department has 3,000 employees, just about $400 million that are spent annually. And these are people that are very talented, they're capable, they're dedicated to our community. And what I've witnessed is that the promotional process has been based on the good old boy network rather than the demonstrated abilities and capabilities of an individual. So we have people that are world class capable doing their work, and suddenly you have people that are promoted over them that are not. And it just devastates the morale of the agency, and it also leads to a lot of issues. We have in the agency right now, as we speak, we have 32 command level. These are directors, captains, people that run the day-by-day operations. They're all appointed by the sheriff. They did not earn to be there. They were appointed by the sheriff to be in that situation. 32 of them, and only two are people of color. One of them was just promoted last month.
You've talked about the cultural change that's necessary to bring about the sort of transparency and accountability that you're advocating for. So let's say you win and you're able to implement a policy of wearing body cams. What's your plan for that going forward? For example, how quickly would the public be able to have access to body cam footage when the need for it arises?
Very quickly, because I am a technologist, and that's what I did, modernizing the agency for 30 years. And I did some pilot programs to evaluate that use. And the team is there available. I can implement body cameras quite quickly. And the ability of making them available for us to use is also instantaneous. But what we also need to readdress this issue. We need to bring in the community leaders. We need to have like a citizens review board that is capable of having full access, not just to the video of the situation, but the background and all of the information is pertinent to an issue that might have arisen, so that they can come up with a recommendation, a decision based on their knowledge, and also give them the ability of being able to make changes. I see the sheriff department not as an authoritative, dictative presence on the community, but I will make it into a partnership where I will bring the community in to guide us of what it is that we need to do to keep our neighborhoods safer.
Do you have a target interval for how quickly you'd like to make body cam footage available?
I need to be able to see what is available at this point, update the technology that is there. When I evaluated this 8 years ago, we were looking at a 6 months time frame. I believe that can be done shorter than that.
Shorter than 6 months.
We will have to train, and we will have to do all the protocol guidance to be able to what needs to be done. I think that's the holdback. It's not the technology, it's more of the process that will be the holdback.
You've talked about the need to have deputies ignore many of what you call minor infractions to stop making arrests for those. What do you have in mind specifically? What kinds of arrests, in your view, don't make the public safer?
Well, right now, whenever 911 gets a call, the majority of calls are because of some kind of a mental crisis that a citizen is going through, some kind of a homelessness issue, drug use, drug abuse issue. And these are things that are not corrected. That, first of all, I don't see them as a crime, and they're not something that can be corrected by arresting somebody and putting them into a jail facility. And then when we arrest somebody that might be working maybe two jobs, part-time, more than 40 hours collectively, and they're maintaining their family, and because they have a small amount of marijuana or drugs, or they have done some minor infraction that does not put our community in danger, when we arrest them and put them in jail, we just took away their livelihood and made it even harder for them to be able to get another job. And we put that family in peril of being homeless. And so instead of by arresting people for minor crimes, crimes that are not a danger, does not put our community in danger, why when we do that, we actually create greater problems for our community. And this is something that is going to, because of the COVID-19 and isolation in the house, the lack of knowing where the money's coming from, all these interactions that are happening are leading to a greater amount of stress. And so we have to address these issues by having the professionals that are able to address it and give them a solution uh, to the family, to the individual, rather than arresting them.
So you mentioned the example of marijuana arrests. If you were elected sheriff, would you direct your deputies not to make arrests for marijuana possession?
That is correct. We would, the amount is something that be derived at, but I believe that it's safe to say that a personal use type of a quantity is, it does not need to be arrested. If it is a concern for the officer, they can give them like a ticket so that they can appear before the judge to be able to guide the what to do with that. But to arrest somebody and take them in, um, it's just too great of a disruption on our community, and it's not making our community safer.
So state law in Florida requires the presence of an armed individual at every school, not necessarily, from what I understand, a sheriff's deputy, not necessarily a teacher, but someone. My question to you is, if you were elected sheriff, how would you implement that? What do you think is the right way to do so?
First of all, I don't think that guns in school make us safer or make our children safer. I have,
Probably a fair place to start. Okay.
yeah, I have 10 grandchildren that live here in Pinellas County, that were born and live here, and they attend school, and I don't feel safer because somebody has a gun there. But because the law that our current sheriff, the one that I'm running against, he's the one that was put in charge of a commission after we had a mass murder at a high school. The Republican governor appointed him to be in that commission, and he came back with the recommendations that were exactly that, of putting guns in all of our schools. But he went further. He went over and lobbied our legislators so that they can pass the law that you're talking about, mandating that this happen. Our school board in Pinellas County is reasonable enough to say that they rejected all of that, and they opted, because they have no choice. They have to have an armed person there. It will be a law enforcement, a deputy that's there. As sheriff, I am going to personally select every single deputy that is going to be assigned to our schools, not because of their law enforcement capacity and capabilities, but because of them trying to help. They're going to be counselors. They're going to take that hat of law enforcement and put it to the side, and they're going to be an asset. We're going to have them trained in de-escalation. We're going to have them be an asset to the school. If we put a deputy or law enforcement officer there, our history has shown that the school to prison pipeline is greatly increased. And the ones that suffer are my grandchildren that are children of color. Our children are the ones that suffer the most, and that ruins their lives. So if we're going to have an armed individual there, I am going to put a deputy that's specially trained to help and to, as a last resort, be there with a weapon to protect. But that rarely happens and the majority of times they have to interact and keep our children safe, but has nothing to do with a gun.
So your opponent has a contract with ICE right now, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that, as I understand it, pays deputies for the immigrants that they detain and turn over to federal agents.
Yeah,
What would you do about that? What would your relationship with ICE be going forward?
it would be terminated. There's the sheriff. Not only does he have that an arrangement to be able to house ICE, he calls them detainees within our jail facility. But he was the one that actually went and lobbied to the state legislators for them to pass a law making it that every law enforcement officer in the state of Florida is an ICE agent. And then he was appointed by the President Trump, to be in his national commission that implemented and put together that law, the 287G law, It allows, it's sort of like a back way of having our deputies, our law enforcement, acts as agents, but then say, well, we're not doing it. They're doing it. It's the federal government doing it. And he was the orchestrator of that. By my running and winning, we get rid of that influence on the state and the federal level. And immediately I will terminate any of that type of contracts that we have with the federal government having to do with ICE.
On the campaign trail, you've talked about your support for shifting resources away from traditional law enforcement to more community-based services. That would directly, affect your own budget if you were elected sheriff. How do you think you would change the role of the sheriff's office in order to meet the community's needs?
The Constitution of Florida says that my role as sheriff is the safety and well-being of the million people that reside and the many that come through my county. It is essential that I allocate the right resources to address the issues to make our community safer. When I send a deputy with not being properly trained into a situation that has to do with a mental illness, the outcome is not going to be good. The only tools that they have is to arrest somebody. And if they resist arrest, then they will escalate the situation to be able to get control and then take somebody to our jail facility. We need to be able to have the professionals that are able to deal with that, address these crises, and then guide the individual to get help within the community. We have all these resources in the community, and as a first responder, we can guide them, we can point them in that direction so that they can truly resolve the issues that they have. Putting somebody in jail should only happen if somebody is of direct threat to our community, and that rarely happens.
Couple quicker questions to take us out. You mentioned that you've got a number of grandchildren who are going through Zoom school right now. In your experience, what is the easiest and hardest subject for teachers to teach over Zoom school? What do the logistics of that look like?
Mathematics. They changed the way that they do math. One of my granddaughters just woke up. She was in my bed. She's a 1.5-year-old. Becca, come on. And she'll come over. But the mathematics seems to be the one that they changed the way they do math into a way that I cannot help my grandchildren. They've added. Sorry about that. She just woke up with me. Dile hi.
Okay, she's not doing long division. No way.
But yes, but I find that I want to have our children be in school. It's essential that they have that interaction. I just don't feel safe with them being in that environment as it is now. The safety protocols are not being applied properly. They have to convince me that our children will be safe in school. I want them to be in school. They need that interaction. Virtual schooling it's okay, but it's not the long-term answer.
If the Tampa Bay Rays win the World Series this year, does it count, or is it like an asterisk championship? What's your position on that?
I think it counts, and it's interesting you said that. The Rays management said that they were going to allow the team members to be able to kneel in honor of the protest that is happening, and our sheriff took a disliking to that and said that he was going to reevaluate protecting them, maybe remove that contract of protecting those that were acting in a matter of protest against. So yes, not only does our sheriff put guns in our schools, not only does he put ICE agents to be our deputies, not only is he doing all that, but he's infringing on our rights as citizens to be able to voice our opinion.
I appreciate your answer there. I note that you offered the wrong one in terms of whether the World Series counts, but I will let that slide for now. Last question. Why can't I grow a mustache like yours? What am I doing wrong?
Well, try it. Try it, let it grow. I found that my mustache, I had a problem with my mustache, and now that I'm older, I don't have that much of a problem. My problem is the beard. I have patch. My Taino Indian blood in me. The Taino Indians in Puerto Rico, they were hairless, facial hairless, and so I have patches of. It's that percentage of Taino that I carry with me.
Yeah, I'm not sure that me growing a beard will go any better than me growing a mustache, but I appreciate your encouragement and optimism on a subject that I'm sure is very important to all of our viewers. Eliseo, thank you so much for joining me on this conversation. And to our viewers at home, thank you for watching. Full episodes of The Briefing are available as podcasts on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. This one may or may not be one of them. You'll have to pay attention to find out. Thank you again for tuning in this afternoon. Please follow Appeal News on Facebook and The Appeal on Twitter for more news, shows, and updates like this one. Bye. Wave goodbye.